Welcome back, students. Object-oriented programming with Oops. So we will be starting with a bit of break, and as promised, we shall not hesitate in giving you more and more, and also repeating the previous class is also very necessary as promised. So many of you have not understood, or many of you have understood, or many of you are quite okay, and many are not quite okay with it. So I thought so to give you a better understanding of data hiding and abstraction in what we call Python today, right? So now we have understood many different things, right? So previously we understood abstraction, and we understood abstract method, and we understood many different things. So before we start with the new class, so let me tell you about few things which we did not learn in the previous class, and while learning those previous things, we'll also end up learning something new in today's class as well. Right? So till inheritance, everyone said it's okay, and after inheritance, maybe they may require a bit of revise, right? Right. Okay, that's absolutely understood. Okay. Fine now. So let's get started with hiding the data first, right? So that we can then do many different things, right? So first we'll have to understand the data hiding. Now, how do you deliberately hide data? For example, if I say, okay, let me go with a new file, and let's call this as data hiding, or maybe not data hiding, it's basically abstraction, or maybe something else. Okay, fine. Okay, now it's visible, and the code is indented, and the surface available area is quite good, right? So now the area is also quite good. So now let's get started. For example, I have a class. I will say class users. For example, I have a class users. And now I make a double underscore variable, and I call let's say I call this variable as double underscore let's say about user name, right? And then I create another, I'll say double underscore password. So I'll say username is equal to blank and password is equal to blank. So we are initializing it, but we have not yet used them at all right? Now what I do, I will say, hey, wait a second, I will define right get user name without having a constructor. So I'll say get username. I'm just creating accessors and mutators, or you may call them as getters and setters. We want to give this read permission and write permission. So I'll say define get username function. So this function is going to get, so I will say return back right. So I'll say return back, right? So I will say this right. I will say I will use self. So I'll say self dot user name. So I'm returning back, and then I say get, or we can say define set user name. It's also going to have self. So now I will say return, not return. So because you are setting, you're going to accept one parameter in here. So let's say user name. So I will say self dot username will take user name. So this is your getter and setter, or you may call it as accessor and mutator, whatsoever you want to call it, but yeah, they are ready for you right here. So no need to terminate. Why do I terminate? I don't know. I have this bad habit of terminating things. Right now, so done. So now I will say, now copy it and paste it back. Instead of get username, I'll say get password and return self dot password, and instead of set username, I'll say set password password. So I'll say password. So I'll say self dot password is equivalent to self.password is equivalent to password. Alright, so now let's go and make an object of class user. So it's equal to u is equivalent to user. So I'm calling the blank constructor, so I do not have any init defined here. So now if I say u dot username, so for example if I say print u dot username, can I do this? Now let us see if I do the same. Right, error. User object has no attribute username, so you have hidden this. So this is called, now these are hidden, right? Because you have either get, you cannot show this, right? You can either get or you can either set. You can take the value or you can set the value, right? You can retrieve the value or you can set the value, right? So now what we have to do here, right, what we got to do here is whenever we call get username and then we say set username. So first if I say set username, right, I have to pass one parameter, right? I have to pass one argument. Whenever I call set username, I have to call set username with one argument. I have to pass one argument. That argument will go inside this username, and here also set password. So let's keep setters at the same place and getters at the same place. So it's not mix them up, right? So we have these setters and now we have these as getters, right? Okay, so these are the getters and these are setters, right? So now this username and password is not meant to be accessed directly like we are accessing it, right? No, it's not meant to be accessed directly. For example, how do you use it? We use it something like this. So I will say, hey, u dot set, right? So I'll say u dot set username is equal to input. Take input from the user and tell him to enter your user name. So we can do this, and what we can do is enter your password. So I'll say u dot set password, enter your password, and then you can say, hey, I want to print. Now you're calling set. Now you can see set method of the class users accepts one argument, which is username, and yet you're taking from input. Another set method accepts, always set method always accepts one argument, and you're accepting it from the user as an input. Then you say print u dot get user. So we'll say u dot get username. It's a function that you have to call it as a function, and you can say comma u dot get. All right, so you can see u dot get passwords, again a function. So you're doing both of them, printing both of them, right? So let's print. Now enter the username, or let me create it more user friendly for you guys, right? So now it's more user friendly, more, better. All right, now let's create it. Let's run. Okay, so now we're not getting it. Username. Okay, like this, and like this, and let's run it. Okay, let's run it again. Enter your username. So I am going to enter it, right? Fahim. Enter your password. So I'll enter password. So now you're getting Fahim and password. This is how getters and setters work. Now, in case if I call the private member directly username, so now I cannot do it with the object name. So if I say u dot underscore password, not even the getter, I'm not calling the getter, right, of and I'm not calling the set, I'm calling direct the underscore password variable. Now let us see what are we getting here. Enter the username Fahim, enter the password. So now user object has no attribute, does not find any attribute username, because this is having an underscore. which is meant to be internally used. This is an indication of making this username parameter available only within the class. I don't want this to be accessed outside the class. All right, which kind of variable is this? It is right, hidden, right, which variable? Class variable. All right, it's a hidden class variable. It's not an instance variable. It is a hidden class variable, right? Is that understood to you guys? I repeat, it's a hidden class variable. All right. And what method is this? This is also called as getters and setters, and we call them as accessors and mutators. And what is the difference between the previous getter and setter user class that we made and this one? Now this one is more appropriate, right? And this one is more better, right? Why? Because in previous class what we did, we created something like this class. We did something like this. Let me, for example, have this class user old. So this is the old class, and this is what we did in the old class. Know this. So we had, instead of this, we had define init, right? So we had this maybe in the previous class. Who knows? Yeah, right? Am I sure? Right, maybe. Yeah, we had the same init, and that init was accepting many different things. By the way, it does not accept anything. Then we used to declare instance variable. I used to do something like this: self dot username. Then we had to do self dot password, and then we had to, instead of this underscore, we had to use this in getters and setters, right? And now let's make an object of users old, right? So now let's do the same. If we make an object of users old, can we do the same? It's not defined. U is equal to users old. Yeah, it's defined already. Let me get rid of this class here. U is equal to USER, user old, not users old. I'm sorry. It is user old. So let me run it. Right. Okay, now let's carry on and delete. Okay, now why do I delete it from here? U dot get password. It's going to work absolutely fine. U dot get username, set username and set password. So we have self dot username, right? So the self dot username is equal to blank and self dot username is equal to blank, and then we say, yeah, we're getting it now, right? So now we say enter your username. I'll say Fahim, and enter your password. So you're getting something, I don't know. So you're getting u dot get username. Yeah, you're getting it. U self dot username and return self dot password. Set self dot username. This username goes to username and password. Some problem with password maybe. PASSWO. Let me copy paste it maybe. Password. This is password. This is password. This is password. This is password. Who knows? So let me have it here. Alright, so let's have it. User old dot get password is showing some error. Okay, get password is basically a method. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, let's say enter the username, enter the password, and it's behaving as it was behaving earlier. But here with this kind of methodology, right, having instance variables, right, if we can instead of getter and setter, we can directly access the parameters. That is, instead of getter, I can directly say give me the password. So now we can say it at times creates havoc when once we are developing big software, so it's still able to access, right? So this is not hiding the data here. We're not hiding these variables because you're creating getters and setters. What if I don't want to give him? There are cases where I don't want to give user the write permission. I only want to give user the read permission. I don't want to give him write permission at some of the classes. And if that is the case, what I will do, so I'll say user u is equal to users. So now if I say get password as a function, so now it will work absolutely fine. But yeah, it's with proper data hiding here, right? Fahim and password. I'll not be able to access it directly. For example, now if I don't want to give write permission, right? So I don't want to give write permission here. So I'll say, hey, username is equal to Fahim and IIT and password is equal to password. So now I cannot set, I can only get. Now I've stopped. What have you done? You have stopped write permission. Now you're only reading, right? You can clearly see you're getting Fahim and IT and password. You're getting Fahim and IT and password. What if I want to overwrite it, right? So you can try if you want to try. Object has no attribute set username. It does not have any attribute set username. How do you first of all write it? I will say u dot username is equal to hello, and I'll say u dot password is equal to say password. Alright, so there's not an option here, so you can see you're still getting Fahim and IIT and password. You're not getting hello and not getting password, you're getting the same thing. You can clearly see you're getting Fahim and IT and password, so you're not able to write. Alright, so that's why we use this technique known as data hiding here. Why do we use it? So that we are able to hide the data, right? And we are not able to, we're not only able to hide the data but give relevant information outside the class in an object-oriented system. We're providing relevant. We have something like get username and set username, which internally uses username and password variables, right? So these variables are private. They are meant to be internally used, right? They're not meant to be externally used. Externally, you'll say set username, pass the username, it's set, get whatever is in this username you're going to get. So that's why you call get and set. So these are setters and getters. This is how we basically deal in software development. Now, how do you deal it in software development? Right, so I'll just delete this users.old. Right, I call this class as model. Right, so what class is this? This is only the model class, it does not have any object, without any object. So I'll call this class as model and I will say this as users. Do you want to replace it? I'll say yes. Right, so the class is user. Okay, so the name is user and the file name is users and the class name is user. Right, so now how do you use it? By encapsulating it. So I'll say new file. So I will say register. So this is, for example, my register screen. So I will say, hey, I want to now get input and set it. So I will say import, or we can say from, what is the file name? Users. What do you want to import? User. So I want to import the class user from user. So it can have many different things, but yeah, let's try. Does it work fine? Yeah, it works absolutely fine. Now you can say user dot set, right? So you can call this user dot set username something, and then you can say user dot set password, which is again going to be input, enter your user name, and then you can say input and enter your password. word. So this is what you can even use. Alright, and before that you can say print. Alright, you can use this user registration, maybe those. Right, so this is user registration. So I'll open my user registration. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So from users, import user.set username. Alright, so we have to create an object of users. So I'll say users. We have to create an object here. I will say user, or we can say u is equivalent to user. So I have to first create an object, then I'll say u.set username and u.set password. Now let's see how it works. Right, so now we have some invalid syntax. How do you document it? So I documented it in a wrong way. My God, how do you document it? Now this is your user registration. Now you can see clearly user registration. Enter your username. I'll say Fahim Khan. Enter your password. I'll say password. And now this thing is done. You're creating an object of users. Even if you want user object to be created inside users, you can create it here only. So you can keep the object ready. So you don't want to create it again and again. So now the object is ready. You don't have to create the object again and again. Alright. So you can say reloaded module. So now you can clearly see enter username Fahim and password is password, and then you're not doing anything, you're only accepting it. So this is how your getters and setters work. Why do you create getters and setters like this? Because of encapsulation, right? So I'll give you an idea of encapsulation in Python. For example, if I tell you to carry on, right, you have, let's say about, you have to go for shopping, or you're moving, you're migrating from a place. Maybe you're migrating, you got your job in United States, so you're going back to United States. So now I'll say, hey, you are having few briefcases, right? So 1, 2, okay, let me say 3, some are small, some are big, right? 4, right? And 5. So say, hey sir, I am going to give you some briefcases. You're having some briefcases that you have to carry along with you to US, because you're going to US. You may not leave your luggage here in Kashmir. You want to take all the luggage, right? And now, how many trunks or briefcases do you have, right? And I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the procedure says encapsulate. You take a capsule and drop another capsule in a capsule, and take that capsule, drop another capsule in that capsule, and keep on dropping capsules unless it becomes one capsule. I'll say, hey, I have 2 hands only, and I may not be able to carry 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 briefcases. So in that case, I will carry 1. I'll take the first briefcase, and yeah, I'll take the first briefcase and I'll drop it here. Now instead of having 2, I still have 2, but virtually, actually I can carry only 1, right? So then I encapsulate another one here, and then I encapsulate another one here, and then I encapsulate even the smaller one here. So this process is called encapsulation. Now I will take, I'll just go and fix it, right? Or maybe I'll go with a handle, right? Okay, like this. I'll just take the handle, carry it on with my hand. So now I'm carrying 1 briefcase, which carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 briefcases internally. So that is our case right here. For example, what does user, or what do you want your user to have? What properties can model have? Model can have, once we register the model with database, which is soon coming maybe in 2 or 3 classes. So model can have first name, it can have last name, it can have username, it can have password, it can have many different things. right? Rather than sending them separately, what we are doing, right, we are taking them in a single object, all. We are encapsulating them in a single object of class users. Then we pass class users. For example, now we have you has everything. You has username, you has password, you is an object that has everything now. All right. For example, now if I make login functions, for example, if I have to make a controller, I'll make another class. Let's make a new class and call this as login controller, right? So I will say class, right? So I'll say login. So this is my class, or we can say class accounts controller. All right, I can say pass, right? I'll import this as well. So I'll say from, what is the file name? File name is login controller. So I'll say from login controller import what? Import the class, which is the class accounts controller. That's as simple as anything. From login controller import accounts controller. So now you can see it works again as expected, right? Now what do you want in login controller, right? And here I will make init, right? So I'm defining my constructor here. At this time I'll define a 0 parameter constructor. I don't want to define a big constructor, right? I just define a 0 parameter connection. So here I will say, okay, let's not have constructor here. So I'll say define login. So I'm defining a function login which accepts, right? So it's going to accept one parameter, which is user. So now, for example, if I say right here print, let's say user dot get username, right? And I say print user dot get password. So what I say here, right? So define login. So login is printing the user and the password. It is accepting object rather than accepting username, password, first name, last name. I'm passing the complete object. So that is the real way of handling object-oriented programming. And now you can create an object right here. After taking all the data, you can say accounts controller AC equals new accounts controller, and now you can go ahead and call AC dot. Now you have the function, accounts controller has the function, right? login, and it accepts single parameter u, which is the user. Oh, I'm still using new, so I will say AZ is equal to accounts, creating an object AC is equal to accounts controller. So I'll say, for example, Fahim, and I'll say Khan, and now accounts controller has no attribute login. Why it? Yeah, it has, and it accepts user as an argument, which is u. U is basically an object of user here, so I'm passing the same. Enter your username Fahim and enter your password pass. Now you're getting login takes one positional argument, but two were given. Okay, why? No. Enter your username. I'll say Fahim. Pass. Login takes one positional argument, but two were given. Where the hell I gave two? AC.login. It takes one positional argument. Where did I give two? undefined, name u. Okay, u is actually defined here. U is equal to user. Okay, it's not u, it's user, because we changed this to user. I'm absolutely sorry, because we changed this to user. Either you can define it here, if you don't want to define it there, right, you can define it somewhere else as well. It's basically user is equivalent to, or we can say u is equivalent to user, so I'll just take u. Now everything will work absolutely fine. Now u, okay. Now registration, I'll go ahead. The name user is not defined. Yeah, absolutely, user is not defined. U is equivalent to user. My God, it's users. It is not users. So I'll say u is equal to users. Or I can say user is equal to user. So I can go to register. Instead of typing u, I will say user. I can say user, and I will pass the same user to the object. So let's carry on. The name users is not defined. Users.py, yeah, it's user. Users. No, it's not user, it's user. So I will say u is equivalent to user. So let me keep u, because it will not resemble actual one then. Alright, so let's say u and pass u here. Okay. Why isn't it not defined? It is user. U is equivalent to user, so it's absolutely defined. So let's define them outside. Just like we have defined accounts controller outside, I will define this u as well. Invalid syntax from accounts controller import. Accounts controller. Okay. Everything is working fine now. I made object outside, right? So I'll make both objects outside. Now, first we are making an object of model, which is user. Then set username input, set password input, and call the login function, and login function is going to do the rest of the job, right? So I'll say enter your username Fahim and enter your password. Login takes one positional argument, but two were given. I don't know, where did I give two? It's going to take only one positional argument. Where did I give two arguments to login? Did I give two arguments to login? I do not know. So let me just look at the timing. Now we still have ample time. Okay, we forgot to mention self here. Okay, we forgot to mention self. I hope encapsulation is clear. So let's enter your username Fahim and enter your password. Pass, so Fahim and pass. Now you can see single login is doing your job. Now let's say encapsulation, again more defined encapsulation. So for example, if I another function right here, define is valid. So this function define whether this is valid or not. So here we also, you clearly see that we are also passing object here, just like a briefcase. We're not passing first name, username, password. Object has everything. So we're passing object and object is doing everything. We'll say, now we can use, I will say if user dot get username, right? So I'll say if user dot get username dot, or you can say is equivalent to blank. Right? If there's nothing, I'll say and, right, user dot get password, both are function, and if password is also blank. Now what you got to do is this, right? So you will say return false. If it is blank, return false. I will say else return true. And before returning false, what you do, you say user. I'll make just one more hidden instance variable, sorry, class variable. So I'll say message, and I will make one more setter, and I will make one more getter. We will say set message, cell dot message, and here I will say set message m, and here I'll say m, I'll say dot message, right? So we made getters and setters, so we can say mutators and accessors for message as well. Now you can see the return. Now see the magic. Now the magic is this, that we are returning. If it does not match, I'll say user dot set. Now we're calling the setter, hey, user dot set message, a self-defined message, please write a username and a password. It's a self-user defined message, right? Now I'll go and encapsulate it. I'll say, hey, wait a second, you're calling login, and I'll say I will call is valid. I will say if right is valid, right? So I'll say if is valid, and you pass the current parameter user. If it is valid, then do this. What do you want to do? I will say user dot set message. You can clearly see user dot set message logged in, right? Why do I terminate? I don't know. I'm just having this bad habit of terminating everything. Okay, now I'll say else if this function does not return true. If it is true, when does it return true? If it is not equivalent to empty, right? If it's empty, you're returning false with a message, all right? If it's not true, then you got to say, if it is true, then you say logged in. If it is not true, then you got to say user dot set message. Now you don't have to use user dot set message here. Just this one. You go else you're using here. Okay. Now let's see what are you doing. How are we going to cope up with this? Go to register. Right, so I'll say enter your username. So I'll not enter anything, I'll not enter anything. Right, name is valid is not defined. Is valid is not defined. So I don't know. Is valid is not defined. It is here. Okay, and say if self dot is valid. Okay, so I forgot to use self, so I'm using self now. So it's print. Use it again. Enter your username, nothing, enter your password, nothing, you're not getting anything because you're not printing anything. Now I'll say, hey, print u dot get message, and that's it. Your software is done. Your complete encapsulation is done here. I'll say enter your username, nothing, nothing. So please write a username and a password, right? So now you're getting message here. Now what happens? You make an object of user which will act as a model, which will encapsulate every single thing. So now you're saying user.set username because it already has getters and setters of username and password, which is taken as an input. Now you're filling this model, and this filled model has filled username and password that you're passing to this login function in the login controller that you're importing here. And login controller says, hey, you called me, but yeah, wait a second, I will send you, which is the user argument, right? Object of the user as an argument that you're accepting. I will send and see whether you're valid. And is valid checks extraction of username and extraction of password. If they are empty, please write a username and password. And if they are not, return true, right? And then if they are not, I'll use another function, right? Here, so I'll say define, right? Save. Now, why do I say login? Because it's register, so I will say sign up. So I'll call this function sign up instead of login. So I'll say, okay, I did not save this. I will use define another function save, and let me say pass, so that, okay, so I'll say sign up. Now let me see that if it works fine. Yeah, please write a username and a password. So instead of login, right, so I will use sign up because I have to register, because my file name is register.python. All right, so what's the timing? So we still have 10 minutes. So I will define save right here. So I will say return true. Right, now this is the function that we will use to send data to the database. So this function will purely be used to send data to the database. So this is the function that we will be using to send data to the database. Which one? The save function right here. All right, so but anyways, till the time we query the database and send data to the database, this function will always return true. So now first you check whether the user is valid. If it is valid, then you check for the second time. What? If self.save, right, and you have to basically pass user object here. So I'll pass the model object, which is, if this returns true now, right, what you got to do is you will say user.set message user, right, and then I'll say plus the name of the user, which is user.get user name. So I'll say this user was registered. So now this user has been registered, and if it does not, right, if it does not return true, so I'll say else user.set message could not register user. Right, so could not register user. So now let me go ahead and run it. Okay, we have some mistake in the spelling. Return, where? Return true, return false, return true. Login controller.py has an error somewhere. I don't know. What error? Line number 12, return, 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 okay. But yeah, return true is there. What is the problem? Okay, let's see. Indentation problem maybe. So I will say user dot get user name. No, what is the problem here? Some kind of problem. Maybe we have this as a problem here. Yeah, this is a problem, right? Okay, let me go back to register and let's go back. Enter your username. Please write a username and a password, right? So now I will try and write Fahim and password. User Fahim was registered. So this is where you're getting user Fahim was register. Now all the things are done except the fact that we just have to edit this single function here. Now this is the function that is going to send data to the database. So this is the main object-oriented methodology. Now see, what we have learned so far is quite many things, right? Number one, we did divide and conquer, right? You have to first divide and rule. How do you divide here? Right? You let the controller do its own job. Controller is solving the business logic. You're calling sign up. Hey, I have a user. I have an object U, which is the object of user type, which has username and password. I'm sending it to you. Please sign up and give me the message back. And that's as simple as anything. Sign up, give me the message back. No hard-coded material. I'll repeat. There is no material in view, because we are at view. View means the place we are taking data from, UI layer, which is the presentation layer, right? So what you are doing, no hard-coded logic, no business logic here. What do you do? Call users. Why do you call users? Because I have to give data to users. Okay. Set username, set password. Why do you call account controller? Because I have to sign up the user that we have just filled. I say, hey, sign up the user, which has every single thing that you have filled in, and you are going to get back the message, because you require to get the validation message whether the sign up was success or the sign up was a failure. But what you have been able to do here, everywhere, you have been able to encapsulate sign up. You're calling only one function, that is sign up. Sign up is calling is valid, right? Is valid is calling. Now you can clearly see sign up is calling is valid, and it's this if which is calling save. You can see, and outside you're only calling sign up. And today what we saw was hidden class variables. Is much better. Instead of creating instance variables, it's basically better to create hidden variables like these, so that you only use getters and setters for read and write permissions rather than using something else. All right. And now, for example, so this is a users right here. All right. So now tomorrow you will say, hey, I want to create some more things. I want to create few more things, right? So for user does not only have username and password, it has many different things as well. For that, I'll show you another thing in the next lecture. All right. So it's already been 47 minutes. What I want you guys to just recap. We don't want to give access to this. We don't want to give access to this. Why? Because we want to give access to getters and setters. Why do we hide it? Maybe tomorrow I have to take the write permission away. Maybe tomorrow I have to take the read permission away. So it's better that the class has all the properties, right, with proper permissions, right? And we are using the model 2 design here, wherein we are dealing with objects in object-oriented programming. That is why we are passing the complete object rather than passing username and password separately. We're passing the complete object to the sign up function. What is the sign up function doing? The sign up function is basically encapsulating all for us. First checking if it's valid, then saving, and then giving us the message back. And you can see just by typing print once, we're only typing print once, and we're getting multiple messages. The first message, please enter username and a password. And the same print message is going to give me this message. User FFG was registered. And you can see the same message is coming from here. This is the 100% correct and the most professional and the most sober and the most convenient way of handling object-oriented programming. Do practice this very hard. We shall be taking a database now, and it is going to be the database operations. We're directly going to communicate with the database. And those who have understood 60 to 70% of object-oriented programming, I must congratulate them. The 60 to 70% is quite sufficient till we take Django and start doing everything practically. I wish you all the very best. Do practice very hard. Let me know down in the comment section if I can help you, or maybe you can message me as well, right? I wish you all the bright and the best future in the web development that we are going to start sooner with Spider and Python, inshallah, right? So I wish you good luck. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care.